All right, so I think it was Thursday we started talking about the power rule, right? And taking derivatives and easier ways to do that. So then remember we talked about how finding the derivative of a constant. So remember if y is -4. So the derivative, y prime, will be 0. Right, derivative of a constant with no variables is always 0. Okay, and if it's just a variable, so let's say f of x is x, then the derivative f prime of x would just be 1. Okay, again, that's just a variable and the number's no exponents. Right, and then we started talking about the power rule. So let's say that y equals x squared. So your first step, remember, is to multiply by the exponent. In the front. Right, so then like this 2 comes down and it becomes a 2x, and then you subtract 1 from the exponent. Right, so 2 minus 1 is just x to the first, so that is your derivative, y prime. All right, and then sometimes we have some where we need to write it with an exponent, okay? Or and not in a fraction form, so we have to rewrite them. Okay, so I believe we talked about how we can rewrite the square root of x as x to the 1/2. Okay, so if you have a radical, right, so square root is 1/2, cube root, right, is 1/3, fourth root is 1/4, hundredth root is 1/100. Okay, so you want to make sure that you write any radicals as fractional exponents. Right, we also talked about how you have reciprocals. So like if g of x is 1/x, you can rewrite that as x to the -1. Right, so if you have a fraction with the variable and exponent on the bottom, you can move it up and make that negative. Right, so I think in your notes we talked about e, it was like 1/x to the 2/3. So you would write that as x to the -2/3. Okay, and then you multiply the -2/3 to the front. Right, and then you are subtracting 1. So -2/3 minus 1 is -5/3. Okay, so then you can rewrite that. So the -2 will stay on top, and then the 3 is still on the bottom from the 2/3, and then you bring that x, make it +5/3, goes down to the bottom with the 3. Okay, so then let's do a couple more examples. I just want to make sure you guys feel comfortable with this and have something to look back at. All right, so let's say that we have y equals 3x squared. So our first step is to take the 2 and multiply it by anything in front. So that becomes a 6, and then x, and then subtract 1 from the exponent. So that is just x to the first, so it's just 6x. So the derivative y prime equals 6x. Okay? Let's see, s of t. These are the examples in your notes if you want to copy them down. Okay, so the 3 gets multiplied to the -5. And then you do 3 minus 1 and get t squared. So that's written s prime of t equals -15t squared. All right, let's do a couple more. So before we take the derivative, we want to rewrite this as 6x to the 1/2. So then 1/2 times 6 is 3. And then 1/2 minus 1 is -1/2. So then you rewrite that as 3 over x to the 1/2. I'm fine if you stop here, or you can go one step further and rewrite it as 3 over the square root of x. All right, and then let's do one more that's a little more complex, but I think that you guys can handle. So it's example F in that second part there. The cube root of x to the 4th. So that is -8. So to write that as a fraction, right, the exponent is the top, the index is the bottom. So it's x to the 4/3, right? But remember, we need that out of the denominator. So we write it as -8 x to the -4/3 before we start our derivative process. So now we do -4/3 times -8, right, which is positive 32/3. And then you have x to the, let's see, -7/3. So then to make that a positive exponent, move it down. All right, and then the other thing on your worksheet is just your sum and difference rules. So if you have like a polynomial plus, okay, so let's say f of x is x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x minus 7. So we're just doing the power rule on each individual term. Okay, so 3 comes in front. You get 3x to the second minus 2 times 5 is 10x. Sorry, plus 2, and then the 7 goes away, right? Because the derivative of x is just 1, right? So then 1 times 2. All right, hopefully that lets you guys get through most of this practice that I left for you today. We'll keep going over it tomorrow, and email me if you have any questions.